everybody. This is Wendy Murdoch with Webinars with Wendy. I'm looking and it looks like Lockie was number 350. So this is webinar number 351. I almost have one for every day of the year. I'm working up to that. Today, I'm not sure I know how to say your last name.
Croschere.
Okay, today my guest is Dana Croschere, and she is here to talk to us about a film that she's recently created. But before we get into that, I want to welcome you so much for joining me today. I'm thrilled to be talking to you. You've come recommended from my dear friend Laura Plunkett. And so welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much, Wendy. It's such an honor to be here. I'm really excited for the conversation.
So Dana, give us your background, because I'm not sure, because you're behind the scenes on a film. Most of the time, people don't know who that is when the credits roll by.
That's true. Well, I am a film producer for Rescued Hearts alongside my partner, who is our director. Her name is Krisanna. And my background is not in film production. I actually was in corporate America most of my life and ended up going through what I would consider as a health crisis back in 2020. During COVID, I had been suffering a couple of years of chronic pain and then ended up having a very unsuccessful spine surgery in 2020 that left me much worse off than I was originally. And then I was injured in that process. I had a spinal fluid leak and was back in surgery 6 weeks later. So I had 2 failed spine surgeries, and my life at that point forever changed.
Wow. Okay. So just that alone is just like stunning.
Yes.
I guess I want to know what led up to the need for spinal surgery, but is that horse related?
So it is not horse related. They never really figured out, outside of some nerve compression, herniated disc, stuff like that. But I will share with you why I brought that up is because that led to Krisanna, my partner, has been in video production and film work like for the last 20 years. And she, at the same time I was going through this healing journey, synchronistically was asked to create a documentary about healing. And we ended up meeting with the executive producer. He found out more about my story, and I ended up being the protagonist of a film that is now out on PBS and a streaming platform called Gaia. The film is called Love Heals, and it is my journey and the journey of 18 other people that were suffering with chronic conditions, mental, emotional, physical. And so we actually created a film. And it did incredibly well. It inspires people worldwide. And what happened was it really showcased my talent as a film producer and storyteller, as my partner and I have now committed to creating films that spread a lot of love, hope, and healing throughout the world.
Wow. Okay. So before we get into that, I want to back up a little bit and ask you the simple question is, you have this incredible horse picture behind you. So I'm assuming that you are a horsewoman.
Yes, I was about to get into that. So over the last 15 plus years, I have been volunteering at various horse ranches and therapeutic riding centers. And that really deepened my connection to what I would call the transformative power of equine-assisted services, which really was the inspiration to our new film, Rescued Hearts. So I've had a love for horses my whole life. I grew up I was not in a place where horses were just running around. I was in Chicago, and for some reason I was drawn to horses just from
birth.
Literally, right? You probably hear that all the
time. You have the horse gene. It's a genetic component. It comes with birth. You cannot explain it. And yes, okay.
Unexplainable. So I had that. And so when I moved to Arizona, I was 23 years old. This was back in 2003. And I was just everything that I could do to get around horses. I was committed to that. So as luck would have it, I was at a volunteer fair where I worked at Wells Fargo Bank. I was in financial crimes and leadership and various corporate positions. And they had a volunteer fair, and this table said horses help. And I was like, what do horses help and how do I get involved? And it was a therapeutic riding center. And Horses Help is really where it all began. So I learned how to be around horses in a really safe way. I ended up, leasing my own horse, volunteering a lot. I ended up eventually having, a couple horses for a period of time in my life. And it was some of the most fulfilling chapters of my life.
So it wasn't until you were in your 20s that you actually got to start living that dream.
Yeah, mid-20s. And, and it didn't last forever. Life ended up shifting, and my priorities and time and money had to go elsewhere. And so, but I do continue to volunteer today. 2 years ago, I started volunteering again. And that really, again, was another inspiration for Rescued Hearts. And I would love to share, Wendy, if I can, what the spark really was.
Sure. Yeah.
So while I was volunteering at Horses Help, I was what they call a horse leader. And the client that was coming, they debrief you and say, okay, this is a 7-year-old boy who's been diagnosed with autism. His parents will be here. He has never spoken words in his whole life. And I was like, okay. And in that session, I will never forget this as long as I live. I'm leading the horse and the boy starts talking. He speaks his first words. And I thought, oh my gosh, what is this miracle that is unfolding? And his parents were crying. And that forever imprinted in my brain and on my heart. And I didn't know that was what I now know is a semi-regular occurrence. And there's a lot of factors that lead up to that. So I ended up going through life, volunteered for years, and then fast forward after creating Love Heals, I was just yearning after, going through a lot of trauma and pain through that journey. I wanted to get back to something where I could give back, where I could get around horses again in a safe way. So I started volunteering 2 years ago, and I was working alongside an 8-year-old who had been through a lot. She had a traumatic past. She was in foster care, suffered a lot of abuse, and found her way to horses after she was adopted. And it was really beautiful to hear stories of how horses really are the main thing and the only thing that has helped her to this degree. So I came home one day, and while I was actually on social media, and I started to see this post spreading like wildfire. And it had to do with Heart Math Institute and some researchers talking about the horse-human connection and why that's so healing and what heart coherence is and what that has to do with, our nervous systems and being around horses. And I told my partner in that moment, I said, you know what? Are you ready to make another documentary? Because I swear there is something here that the world is interested in and needs to know more about. And I'd love to go on this exploration and take this journey of uncovering the miracles, mystery, and science of healing with horses.
Wow. All right. So before we dive into that, I want to give a plug for volunteering at Therapeutic Riding or any riding assistance, because clearly that was so profound for you. And I think that there's a lot of people where they want to be involved with horses or they don't have a horse right now. So can you talk a little bit about, being a volunteer and what that's like? And
yes, honestly, it changed my life. When I first started volunteering, life is challenging at times. You're in your mid-20s, and I was trying to figure out life, and I was struggling in different ways. And the first thing that I can tell you volunteering did was get me out of my own head. It allowed me to give back in a way where I wasn't so hyper-focused on my life and what was going well and what wasn't and what I was stressed about. It's like every time I would step into that arena in a volunteer session, I could breathe deeper. I was more present. I was giving back in a way that made me feel really good. And I was helping others and just being around horses. It was like nothing I had ever experienced. And so volunteering started to become something I looked forward to more than anything else in my life, whether it was going to work it became such a beautiful sanctuary for me while I was helping others, humans and horses, helping care for them. And it was transformational for me as a volunteer.
Well, because we think of volunteer, you know, when you hear the word volunteering, you think of the sort of giving out, but it doesn't include the what you get back.
That's right.
Right. I think it's a kind of it's missing it's only a half of the story, right? I don't know that there's another word for it, but I think that it's a two-way street. It might even be more than a two-way street.
Indeed. Sometimes I almost felt bad. Like, am I getting more out of this than I'm getting? Because it really did change my life, genuinely. And even to this day, you know, I'm a busy filmmaker now. I travel a lot. Rescued Hearts took us on a journey for the last 2 years that brought us all over the world. And my Saturday mornings at Equine Connections, you know, they miss me, and the kids miss me when I'm gone. And I just can't wait to get back. Actually, this Saturday is the first time I will have been back in several weeks because of my schedule. But to this day, you know, now I'm 46 years old, and it's something that has never left me. I absolutely love it.
So, all right. So you're volunteering at Therapeutic Riding, and then you got your own horse, and you had your own horses for a while, right? Or leased them.
Yep.
Okay. And then, so where did you, is Rescued Hearts your first film, or is Love Heals your first film?
So Love Heals is our first feature-length documentary that I produced. I'm also in it, similar to Rescued Hearts. It's like an idea-based documentary following a journey.
Okay, so in our timeline, I just like to keep the timeline kind of clean.
Sure.
So you were a volunteer, you had horses, and then did you have your back injury, and then you made that?
There was this big gap of time. Okay. So, you know, in my mid-20s for several years, I was volunteering, probably about a good 7 years, leased horses, had a couple horses, and then life kind of took a turn in, I would say, you know, like 2000, maybe 2010, something like that. And I just got busy. It was work related. I was helping raise kids with a previous partner. And so time for horses ended up going into the back seat, and I didn't get to explore that again for probably about a decade. And I find that to be the case with a lot of people. They were around horses for a period of time, or had horses, they were involved, and then life kind of shifts, and then they lose it and they miss it. And so the very moment that changed, and I was able to put forth more time and energy into being around horses again, I did. I would, you know, only from a volunteer perspective. I haven't owned horses since then.
Yeah, I call it returning riders, because they've ridden as kids, and then life, college, kids, family, all that, and then they finally get back to it. And so, you know, I think of them as returning to riding.
Yes. And returning to volunteering was really, really helpful to me as well. So it wasn't as much, I love to ride, but for me, I found that it was less about riding and more about just being in their presence and helping people and caring for the animal. So for me, that was really, it was therapeutic for me. So yeah, there was this gap. And then I went back into that volunteering on and off. And then my chronic pain started in 2017. I ended up having the surgeries in 2020. And then, 2 years ago, after I recovered enough to be around horses again in 2022, is when I started volunteering and we started creating Rescued Hearts. Wow. So I hope that is clear as far as.
No, now I think I've got it now. And so the back injury, it was not horse related.
It was not. I'm not going to lie and say I haven't ever fallen off a horse. When I was starting horses back in the day and I leased a horse, the people that I leased the horse from, you know, they did their best to set me up for success. But when I thought I was ready for my own horse, I was sold a 3-year-old Mustang, and I didn't have any idea that was not appropriate for them to sell me, knowing I was a brand new rider. And yeah, I was actually riding bareback one day. For 6 months, we had ridden and created what I felt like was a really great bond. And one day she just took off on me. And when I got her stopped, she reared up and I did fall on my back. I fell off and broke some transverse process bones in my back, but it was a quick recovery. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't.
It's that story is a whole nother webinar. I've actually done webinars talking about appropriate horses for people, and it's a sad statement of my industry that horses like that are sold to inexperienced people. Yeah. But let's not go down that path today. That's
well, you know what it did though, Wendy, truthfully, it was a tough lesson, but thankfully I bounced back quickly. And what it taught me was the importance of like groundwork, connecting with your animal, building trust, giving the animal time to grow and to evolve with you. I mean, you know, after that, I think the next horse I was around was, 19 years old and really chill. And we got along great until it started to have some medical conditions. And then I found something in between.
That's usually I like the older horse first, and I'd have a little bit of issues, but safe, sound, sane, and suitable. That's right. And then the in-between horse, and then the young horse. That order just works a little better.
Oh goodness, yes. But the fact of the matter is, I would love these animals if I never rode one again. And just witnessing what we filmed over the last couple of years has really impacted us in ways I never could have anticipated.
And so like I have been in serious pain and dealt with a lot of injuries and recovery. And so I think that when people have been through that, like you have with your back pain, it alters you in a way that people who have never been through that experience can't relate to. It's like, I can't relate to having a baby. I've never had a baby, but if somebody comes in, I broke my neck yesterday, I gotcha. I can relate to that. Right. Yes. And I think that there's something about having come through a serious debilitating injury where and in your case, having multiple surgeries that failed, it puts a different spin on life, a different perspective on health and recovery and what health is. So just briefly, because I know that this had to have colored the films that you made. So yes. If you were to try and describe how going through those years of pain and surgeries and recovery, how did that change your perspective?
Well, it certainly helped me realize that health is my wealth. Like there is nothing, you can't put a price tag on it. I had no idea how much I took my health and abilities for granted until I couldn't anymore. And I also feel like there were some things in my life that I needed to look at changing. And it wasn't until this health crisis that I realized life is just far too short. And I think one of the biggest changes was that. I mean, I ended up taking a journey inward, I'll call it, and really reflected on life in new ways and today, I can honestly tell you, I have more gratitude today for just being able to walk than I've ever had in my entire life, and just being able to experience the world and to create these films. And you said it perfectly. Like my journey was the catalyst for everything that we're doing with these films that we create to spread love, hope, and healing, because people are suffering. And whether it's physical pain, emotional or mental pain, life can be challenging, but it can also be incredibly beautiful. And our perspective has so much to do with that. So during that time that I would say suffering, I very much felt like a victim. And in some ways I was. When you're injured in surgery, you are a victim.
Yeah. You're helpless is really, yeah.
Yeah. So I was isolated. I was in the intensive care unit thinking I was never going to walk out of there alone during COVID. And it was a challenge, but did it ever make me who I am today?
Yeah.
I would not take it back, but it took me a bit of time to be able to say that.
Yeah. It takes, but I can remember, like, and for me, it was 40 years ago, but that everybody else's life continued on and mine was like frozen in time. And so when you go back and see these people, they're off on other paths, other journeys. And you're kind of sitting there going, oh, it's kind of a Rip Van Winkle effect. You just feel like you got stuck back there in a different time zone.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was challenging. I think maybe the positive to COVID during that time was that a lot of people were kind of stuck.
Yes, that's true.
Whether it was me recovering from spine surgeries or people just not being able to go out or, being terrified of what we were all experiencing, the world just slowed down. So I guess that's really one of the positives, but I couldn't get out in nature. Like everybody started to explore. I mean, a lot more people got around horses and nature, and hiking, and all the things that I loved, and I couldn't do any of it. So yeah, that was a challenge. And creating a film about my journey was not something I ever anticipated, but it was interesting because one day Krisanna said to me, can I just, this is really hard. We're going through a very tough time. We were probably at the very lowest of all lows. And she said, can I start filming your journey?
So tell us who Krisanna is.
Krisanna is my partner of almost 8 years. So we were best friends and fell in love, and we're life partners and partners in filmmaking. And
so she was already a film producer at this time.
So she had created one film. It was a short film about women in prison called The Journey Home. I'm sorry, in jail. There's a difference. So women in jail, and Arizona, we live in Arizona, and our ASU, the university here, has a theater called ASU Gamage, and they are, one of the top theaters. And so they actually hired Krisanna. She had done some work for ASU, and they hired her to create a short documentary about women in this Arizona jail, where they bring the creative arts to the jail and allow these women to do storytelling and, singing and art and all of these different things, and how it helps them, and how much it impacts the recidivism rate once they get out and back into the world and it just is very transformational. So Krisanna had the opportunity, while I was working at Wells Fargo and doing my corporate life thing, I would still help her as I could, but she created that film and had been in video production. Like I said, she was winning film competitions. She has been doing it since high school. And so she did a lot of weddings, beautiful storytelling in the way that she puts things together. So she did have one film project under her belt. And then because we had done a promotional video for a retreat center in Sedona, Arizona, the founder of it saw the video and was like, who are these people that created this magic? I've been looking for a documentary to be created for the last 40 years about self-healing and some of these more ancient modalities of healing. And so that's how that began. So we had a meeting with them during a time when I was in recovery. So I hadn't produced any films before, and she had one documentary that she had created, and the rest was just like regular video production work in a very beautiful cinematic way. She's an incredible storyteller. So she went through the Love Heals journey with me from the perspective of being my caretaker. I mean, I don't know how I would have survived without her during that time. And I have so much compassion for people who navigate these things on their own. Yeah. Because having her there, I think, really saved my life. So yeah, it was.
You're so incapacitated that for me, I had in-home care, but I had to go through several in-home care before I found one that would take care of my dog and actually cook.
My gosh. The basics. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like, your body is busy healing. That's its job. You need somebody else to do all the other life jobs while you're devoting that time to healing. Otherwise, it's really hard. It's incredibly hard.
Absolutely.
So tell us about this documentary, this first one.
So yeah, the first one mostly was filmed in Sedona. Krisanna, like I had mentioned earlier, picked up her camera and started filming me long before we knew Love Heals was going to actually be a film. So we have part of my journey was already documented before this film ever started, which ended up being a huge benefit. And it was just extraordinary to follow the journey that I was on. And then we actually did an application process for many other people that have been suffering to go to Sedona to experience a retreat. We traveled the country and talked to experts about chronic pain and illness and what causes that and what can we do to help ourselves to become our own advocates. And the executive producer said, you know, what I want to share with the world is how important self-love and compassion is to our journeys and how we can empower ourselves to be our own best healer. Like it was so critical for me to stop putting my power into everybody else's hands and allowing them to say words to me that those beliefs were actually debilitating to me. I needed to change my mindset, and I didn't have a clue. So we went on this journey. This film, I know I'm biased.
It's okay.
It's so good though, Wendy. You know, it resonates with so many people because they can see themselves in it. Can
you just give us an example of the conversations that disempower? I think I don't think people even know it's happening.
I don't think they do either. And I think what the bottom line is it's anyone who is instilling something in you that creates a sense of fear. So it could be anything as simple as, you know, my spine surgeon after surgery is telling me, well, if you do this, you're going to re-herniate your disc, and you can't, like, there's a certain level of, you know, precautionary measures, right? Yeah. Don't lift over this amount. Don't twist this way. Okay, great. I got that in this time of healing. But at some point in time, your body, it does heal, right? And so physiologically we're okay, but psychologically there's a lot that plays into that. So I don't know if you or your viewers will know this book and this man, his name is Bruce Lipton, and he teaches about the biology of belief. Yeah. So there's many examples out there where somebody was misdiagnosed with cancer and given X amount of months to live. That person died in those X amount of months, and they found out they never had cancer. So this is what I'm saying. There's like this placebo effect that impacts all of us if we
negative placebo effect, right? Yeah. I have an example of that. I
too.
Like because in 40 years ago, a horse rolled over me and punched my femur through my hip socket and wrapped 2 inches of the sciatic nerve around the femur head, and then kicked me between the legs when he got up and broke my pelvis on the other side. So the message that I got, I went to surgery and I was screwed back together literally, and sent home. And when I went to see my orthopedic surgeon, whose name I still can't recall, I told him that I can't sit cross-legged without falling over backwards. And when I ride, it hurts my knee. He said, ride with your knees off the saddle and you may never get your flexibility back.
There you go.
To this day, 40 years later, I can still tell you that in a heartbeat. But I mean, my personality is I'm going to prove you wrong, which is done, right? But so many people hear messages like that. And like you say, the biology of belief, we take it in as truth, and it becomes our own truth as opposed to what someone is putting on us.
That's right. Yeah. Our thoughts, our beliefs, the words we speak are far more powerful than we have ever been led to believe, truly. So in Love Heals, we go on that journey, and it was life-changing, to say the least. A lot of the practices I learned during that time in my healing journey, I still use today. The mindset shift was everything. You know, I didn't recognize how much my past and my traumas and things I experienced in my life turned on this switch that got stuck on, that kept me in a state of hypervigilance. And, you know, my sympathetic nervous system was just on fire. So I was living my life in fight or flight or freeze, you know, everything but the rest state, like all the time. I didn't know the answers to what I was seeking to help my body were actually in my body. I really thought it was, you know, I'll go to therapy and I can do this and I can do all these different things. But, oh my goodness, I was really lacking a lot of knowledge, and I had a mindset that was not supporting my healing, and I just didn't know. So I'm so grateful that we created Love Heals, because I hear from people, I'll get emails from people all over the world that just in watching our film and shifting their mindset or ideas or beliefs or things they didn't really understand they had the power over has changed their lives. I mean,
Oh, awesome.
it's amazing. So we offer the film now for free, which is great because it's been out for January will be its 3rd year of being released. And so it's on, I can give you the website. It's
put it in the chat, people. I'm sure.
Perfect.
And then what I can do is I'll put it in the notes when we put this out.
Yeah. Love Heals.
Oh, it's really simple. Okay. That's super simple.
Absolutely. Yeah. All of our films, we do our film name and then film. So lovehealsfilm.com, rescuedheartsfilm.com. We have websites for that. And then we have our own production website that has all of our films on it. So we try to keep things easy.
So you created this film, which is basically documenting your journey and that of others in terms of healing and healing themselves, if you will, through the power of self-awareness, bottom line.
Well said.
And that's, it's so, I don't know if you know who Linda Tellington-Jones is. She's actually the person that I met a year after my accident that was very transformative in my change of perspective. And also, in the Feldenkrais, I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner. Okay. Yeah, it all makes sense, doesn't it?
Indeed.
All the little circles start to line up and connect. Yeah. So, all right. So you've made this film and you interviewed a bunch of people and then how did you come to the next film, which is, I just lost the title.
Rescued Hearts. Yeah. Yeah, I think Rescued Hearts will be very resonant with you and your audience just based on what you've shared. But, like I said, after the Love Heals journey, I got to a point where my body was ready to do more things. And, my mindset was in such a good place and the film was doing really well. We released it and it got picked up, for national broadcast on public television and then again on a streaming platform. And I thought, wow, that was one of the most incredible journeys we've ever taken to bring a story to life. And then for it to be so well received, we thought, what if we made documentary filmmaking a thing? Like, what if I don't go back to Wells Fargo and we actually give this our all? What if I just become a film producer? Now, mind you, I'm actually a financial coach part-time as well. So I took everything that I learned in the financial world and I have a business and I do that. But film production and bringing these stories to life is just my heart. And I'm grateful for it because when I started volunteering after Love Heals with horses and kids, that's when I came home one day and was like, oh my gosh, there's something here. And Krisanna said, I am pretty terrified of horses. So I don't know if this is, a really good idea, but she trusted me. A lot of our film work has really been based on strong intuitions and guidance that I would say is much bigger than me. And so I felt intuitively like there's something here that we need to explore. And Krisanna said, okay, I trust you. And so, like I said, that's when I started to see all this Heart Math Institute stuff come out about what is so powerful about the horse-human connection. And so, Wendy, I have so much passion for this, but we interviewed with the researchers that did it. We went to Heart Math Institute in California. We filmed with horse-human, connection practitioners, people whose lives have been transformed. We filmed just the most amazing things that I can't actually describe in words, which I'm so grateful to be a filmmaker because we can bring it to life in a film and people can actually feel what we experienced. And that's just very
just correct me if I'm wrong. So basically you learned about heart math and then this movie is about the heart connection between humans and horses?
I mean, that's an element of it, but it's so much bigger than that.
Okay. All right.
We also started to meet with people who help horses and work with horses in a way that really, I would say they take the welfare of the horse into consideration, because it started out as like, what are all these equine-assisted services that are being offered? Equine-assisted psychotherapy and learning and, equine therapy is kind of an outdated term because it doesn't technically describe what's happening. And so we started to uncover all of that. We filmed with the head of Path International, and we went back to Horses Help. We went to places that I've volunteered. We have footage of the family that I volunteer with here still in Arizona, and just amazing things unfolded. But it goes so much deeper than that. We definitely filmed with the scientists, the experts, the researchers in the field to understand that heart connection. That's a very strong element in our film. But then we have circumstances where, there were some things that were very unexpected. My dad is a bit of a skeptic in general in life. He kind of wears that lens, and he says, oh my gosh, what are you creating a film on horses and healing with horses? What does that even mean? And can horses help me? He's not a veteran with PTSD. He doesn't have any known disabilities, but my dad kind of struggles. He also has struggled with pain in his life. And I'm sure he's been through stuff that has gone relatively unprocessed. It's not like he's ever been to therapy. And so, Wendy, I will tell you, my dad agreed to have a session with a horse, and we filmed it. And oh my gosh, that was probably the biggest aha moment for me to realize that the presence of a horse can really transform and heal things in people's lives that they never even knew would come to the surface. And so it does this thing where we connect to the deepest part of ourselves, our hearts, our souls. We are more present. We are more authentic, or have to be, because horses will let us know if we're trying to be something we're not. But we didn't realize those things. And the part of the film that includes the scene with my dad is one of the most amazing, beautiful things I could even ever imagine being in a film. And it also transformed my relationship with my dad. It healed our relationship, what happened. And so I have to tell you, I can't wait to bring this film to the world over the next handful of months. We're getting close, and it's very exciting.
Wow. So, okay. It makes me want to ask a couple questions. One is, horses have been with humans for thousands of years. And I believe that they keep evolving to stay in our lives. In other words, they've gone through so many different roles that now they're in this role of healing and therapy and finding ways to still. So, some people try to say that, we shouldn't dominate this herd animal, but I disagree. And I think that there is something innate in that horse-human relationship that we don't understand, but that is what's the word for it? It's symbiotic. And I agree. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, is they keep evolving. Now they're in different forms of therapies and that sort of thing. Whereas, they're still in places, they're beasts of burden and they're vehicles and pack animals and that, but they also keep changing to stay with us. And I just wonder if you have experienced that or have anything to comment on that.
Yeah, that's a great thing to bring up, Wendy, because truthfully, I would say it's so much less about domination and control of the animal and so much more about partnering with them and allowing them to fully express who they are and allowing us to fully express who we are makes for the healthiest relationship with horses. And that's what we've witnessed. And they have evolved. I mean, I think they're very spiritual beings, just like we are. If we can see them that way, there is something when you look into the eyes of a horse that is beyond our words or understanding, which is why our film is the miracles, the mystery, the science, it all exists. And I would say that, watching horses in partnership with humans, there is something there. And it's different. People will say, well, what about dogs? Yes, and dogs are amazing. They're beautiful. They have a different relationship with us. They're also, dogs are more of a predator versus a prey animal. There is something extraordinary about a prey animal whose trust we earn and then can work alongside that animal. And yeah, they're going to have their moments of being afraid, or, they can rely on us, hopefully, for trust and guidance, and vice versa.
So I'd like to throw something out to you on this, because I don't think of them as prey animals. I think of them as flight animals, because we are also prey animals.
Interesting. I've not heard that before.
Yeah, because and I think that we need to get that. And here's my justification for this. I take people on horseback safari to Kenya.
Oh,
we're on horses. Okay, now who's the prey in Kenya? We are. Humans are, right? So we have we're mammals, and we have a very, very similar nervous system. The difference is that we can create tools to defend ourselves, and the horse's only tools are its physical body. If we had to rely just on our physical body to survive, we are the prey. We're the pink squishy thing without fur out there, nice and marbleized and tender. So I think of them as flight animals because their mode of self-preservation is flight, whereas humans will flee and will depending, you'll see fight and flight, right? We'll flee just as much as they will, but that's their mode of self-protection in general. And there's so many instances of horses being the aggressor, and so
true.
From that perspective, I think of them as a flight animal, and so they have a high flight reflex when threatened.
Good point.
So just something to think about, right?
Yeah, no, I've literally never heard that. And, we've interviewed a lot of different people with a lot of perspectives, and
so interesting. They're
definitely a flight animal. That is for sure.
Right.
But I think going back to just earning the trust of a horse and being someone who is safe for them to be around is the bottom line. And as we evolve as a humanity and horses evolve in their way, like, the partnership is undeniable when it's done in a way that there's trust and respect and love. I've not seen anything like it. It's incredible.
So Laura Plunkett is the reason that we've made this connection. So what is your connection to Laura? Was she involved with your film?
No. So I actually found out about Laura through a mutual friend. So I have a friend here in Arizona that found out we were creating this film. And he said, oh my gosh, I have, it was actually one of his employees for his business, completely unrelated to horses, who said, well, her mom, who is Laura Plunkett, is involved in this work. And she's actually does a lot of different things, one of which is animal communication. She's helped a lot of horses at a place called Misty Meadows in Martha's Vineyard, where we showed little clips of our film, and we got to meet Laura in person. And that's actually where we saw the pads. And she's like, do you know Wendy Murdoch? I'm like, no. And so full circle, here we are, because Laura was introduced to me through a mutual friend. And then we went and filmed out there. And even though Rescued Hearts isn't necessarily going to include animal communication, we were very intrigued by what we watched. And just watching Laura do that and helping the people at Misty Meadows better care for their animals, I was like in awe. And so it was really fun to see that unfold and to go there and share bits of our film and meet Laura. So yeah, that is why I'm here today, because I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I find it so interesting that that you think it's a big world, and yet
the amount of synchronicities and such a small world.
It's kind of crazy. And you just keep finding that looping back and looping back and looping back. And I, on an energetic level, you have to wonder what that's all about. I'm not even going to speculate.
No.
Whether it's just that we're resonating at a similar frequency, and you keep finding those people that are resonating at that same frequency.
That sounds right to me. I don't know. I will forever be in awe and in the wonder of how things work out. It's been extraordinary. We have so many stories of synchronicities and things. I feel like the only way I can put it, Wendy, is that the film has been so divinely guided for the greater good of what I think, the world is ready to receive. There's been a lot of films done, horse-related films, and I honor all of them. I think there can never be enough or too much content going out to help spread more awareness of these incredible beings. But I feel like ours is ours feels a little bit different. And I'm excited for that because the way that we do our storytelling, I believe is going to help horses and humans alike in ways maybe people don't realize. So it's very exciting.
So tell us when it's like, now that you've prepped us, when is this coming out?
Yeah. So a few things. It's taken a little longer than we originally anticipated because we ended up going back to certain places or people. We actually went to Colorado to film with a gentleman named Nishan Cook.
Oh, yeah. I know. I've interviewed Nishan. Yeah.
Yep. He's extraordinary. And we were in Colorado in 12-degree weather and we could barely interact with the horses and our hands felt like they were going to fall off filming outside. And so not long ago, we actually caught back up with Nishan to do more filming. And then something unfolded in South Africa not long ago and went viral on Instagram about a woman that does healing in partnership with horses. And we went there and filmed, again, some content that I have absolutely no words to describe. And I'm so grateful we did it. So sometimes that intuition tells us we have to go a little deeper, or if we have a gap in the film, or if there's something so now, Wendy, we're done filming officially. It synchronistically ended 2 years to the exact day, which we had no idea until I had a Facebook memory come up.
Oh, yeah.
We're filming for Rescued Hearts. And I'm like, this is also the last day. Wow. And so we realized we have to draw a line in the sand. Otherwise, the film is never going to get out. So right now, we're about 70 to 75% of the way done with editing because we've also been editing throughout, the last few months. And we have released 2 different sneak previews. One of them, the original one, is still available on our rescuedheartsfilm.com website. It's a 20-minute sneak preview that gives you like a taster of some of the folks that we filmed with. It's been very well received. It's a $5 donation to help us keep going on our journey. As you can imagine, creating a documentary film has been a very expensive venture. And that being said, people can get a taster of Rescued Hearts right now for a $5 donation, or we have a 4-minute clip of our film that I can give you the link to by just subscribing to our website.
Yeah, I'll have you send it to me in an email so we can put it into the banner. It's easier than in the chat, but you can put it in the chat for the people.
I'll put it in the chat now, and then I can provide you with all of the links. So it's just our website /subscribe, and then you can get a 4-minute free teaser of what we're creating. And yeah, so our goal is to enter this into a few film festivals to get some awards. That's part of the process. So we're going to be doing an exclusive focus group screening to just share what we have edited so far to bring our audience into the mix and help us, like, what do they want more of? What do they want less of? What's really resonating with them? And so if they're on our email list, they can get an opportunity to see a very extended version of Rescued Hearts and provide us feedback. So I would say if there's one of the main call to actions for this call, I would say if people are willing to subscribe, we don't send out a bunch of junk. We rarely email our community. We're very mindful that it's a privilege to have them on our list. And so the next email that will be coming out will be about that focus group screening opportunity. It'll be virtual. We'll give people a few days to watch what we've created so far. And then after that, we're going to incorporate feedback, finish editing the content, especially that we filmed in South Africa recently, last month. And then we are going to release something probably no later than the beginning of summer, because we have a film festival we got our eyes set on.
Yeah, good.
April and May. Yeah. So but there's some restrictions. They don't allow you to share the full film
Sure.
to the world because they need it to have world premiere status. So we're very diligent about making sure we don't knock ourselves out of those awards. And so within the next handful of months, Rescued Hearts should be accessible.
How long do you think it will be in the end?
So this is a common conversation in our household right now. So here's the deal. I'm going to tell you something. Rescued Hearts will very likely be a 2-part, 1 hour each series where each of the segments of Rescued Hearts can be a standalone if people just want to watch an hour, or it could be where it's like a 2-hour full experience deal. And the other thing is, because we film so much incredible content and you can only fit so much into one film, we're probably going to be releasing short documentaries segments that go deeper into some of the things that we filmed with people, because, I can't
this is the crux of the problem, right?
Yeah.
It's like you need to tell a story so that it connects it all, but what do you cut? What do you leave on the floor, as they say?
The cutting room floor is a sad place. And I told Krisanna, I don't want to leave so much stuff out on the cutting room floor that I believe could be very useful. So I think what we're probably going to end up doing, and again, this is you're catching me at a time where we're still exploring, but I think we're going to use our YouTube channel, which is our production name. It's Live Wild Films. I know there's a lot of films. It's very confusing, but Live Wild Films is that's who we are. That's our production company. And then there's Love Heals, Rescued Hearts, on and on and on.
Right.
And so I think what we'll end up doing is putting episodes maybe on our YouTube channel of some of the deeper dives, and I just can't see wasting that footage and those incredible stories. They're so important. So so we'll have Rescued Hearts, and then we'll probably do some short content that people can digest at their leisure. But and then Wendy, all of this could go out the window if we had a huge streaming platform come to us and say, we want all of it. Rescued Hearts, all of the short docs you're planning to create, which we're naming Wild Hearts, Broken Hearts, Open Hearts.
It's
never know.
It will, as you say, it'll become clear as you get there. And the first thing is to have something at those film festivals.
That's number one.
That is the recognition.
It is.
That's the door. That's the door that will open, and then we'll give you direction.
You bet. So it's one step at a time. And if we get ourselves too far ahead, it becomes extremely overwhelming.
Yes, I know that feeling.
Right? No, production. I mean, Krisanna's our editor. So we film together, and then I do all of our production work. I run all of our social media. So we have a really beautiful following on Instagram, Facebook, a little bit on TikTok. We dabbled, but it's not our main area of sharing. But I would say just seeing the behind the scenes and watching this unfold, that's my area of sharing right now, is just to get people aware of what we're doing, excited about what we have, and ready to watch the film when it's done. So that's our main goals.
Awesome. Well, and the bottom line is telling the story of how horses affect human lives, right? That's really
everything. That's the passion. That's the project. That's the mission. Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this is really cool. I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, send me the links and things. And what we do is put it in the notes when we put this up on YouTube. So
okay. I will absolutely give you everything you need to communicate with the audience. And this has been such an honor and a pleasure to speak with you about this, Wendy. Thank you for the invite.
You're so welcome. It's so much fun what I like is kind of diving into the backside of it and seeing how many different ways horses impact our lives, and also to provide people with ideas of, your career doesn't just have to be a rider or somebody taking care of a stable. There's so many ways in which we can connect with horses and be with horses in our lives, whether that's as our profession or our hobby or our passion. I just think it's important for people to know that there's so many opportunities that await us.
Absolutely true. Well said. Yeah. Thank you for this.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And I really look forward to when your film comes out.
Thanks, Wendy.
All right. So everybody, we'll see you next time. And just remember, you can go to the YouTube channel. It's Surefoot Equine. We will be changing the title to say Webinars with Wendy, because that has become the predominant thing on that YouTube channel. And you can find all of these webinars there. Thanks so much and have a great day. Bye.